Good afternoon to most of the world. Hello, everybody. Um, Happy Wednesday. Is it Wednesday? No, it's Tuesday. Happy Tuesday. Am I live? I should be live. I should definitely be live. The computer is telling me I'm live. Hopefully, I'm live. Is anybody there? Hello to the world. Let's let's do this. Um, Great. So today we're going to do some. I love Excel. I'm really excited for this stream. We're going to do a bunch of stuff in Excel, and it's going to be a great time. So basically, the goal is to the goal is to calculate like how much money do I need to make in my life, and using the same idea, anybody can do the same thing in their own world. Um, to live life the way that I want to live life. Being reasonable. Um, this is really helpful for anybody that is looking into fundraising, like me, but also like job hunting. When I go out and I get a job, what salary do I need? Um, this is important information. Yeah, this is important stuff. So let's do that. Let's do that. And we're gonna come over to this is the screen. All right. If you were here yesterday, you might recognize this. This is my novena of streams that we're going through. This is what we did yesterday. I also streamed Amnesia yesterday, and that was freaky. Holy cow! I'll be streaming that again tonight at some point. And then tomorrow we have another Excel stream. And then everything else is going to be other stuff. Like this is a story. This is chapter 2 of a story. I'm very excited for. Um, this is uh, this is going to be sensitive stuff. I'm going to talk to an agnostic about the problem of evil, and then playing video games, and then preparing for the game show, and then the novena is already going to be over, and I'm going to be very sad. I might stream increasingly often after this because I'm starting to really enjoy it, which is a good sign. Yeah. All right. So let's dive into this. I suppose we need this. All right. So here's our theoretical workbook. And um, why don't we save it somewhere? Where do we want to save it? Just a desktop? That'd be great. That'd be great. Um, this will be build up a budget. Great. Um, so the basic gist of this is in order to figure out how much money I need to make in life, I need to know what I expect to spend money on, right? And there's two things in my life that I spend money on. First is things that are like regular dollar amounts that don't depend on how much money I make. Like my phone bill is my phone bill. How much I spend on food is how much I spend on food. And that might change a little bit with how much money I have, but by and large, what I make is what I make, and what I eat is what I eat. Those don't need to grow according to my income. There's other things that do change with my income. Like, for example, taxes go up the more money that you make. And also, uh, tithing is 10% of your income and things like that. And how much I invest in 401ks and things like that, or IRAs, I suppose, to be technical. But we're not going to go in depth with all those things. But like percentages of my income are something I need to account for. Oh, this is don't worry about this. This is fine. Don't worry. That was just school. Um, I didn't. I'll have to account for notifications of emails in the future. Didn't think of that. All right, that's fine. Um, so let's start with simple expenses. Okay. These are the ones that aren't percentages. I'm going to call them simple expenses. We could call them anything. We're just going to make this whole thing bold. Um, and let's list out some things. Actually, what I usually do is uh, create categories because I think in categories. Okay, so for example, living expenses. What are some living expenses that I know I'm going to have in theory, right? I'm going to have rent. I'm going to have food. I'm going to have utilities. Um, uh, da, 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 uh, Actually, these are all living expenses. That's a really everything's going to be a living expense. That's a horrible category. Um, so let's call this housing. This would also be housing then. Um, Food is kind of its own thing. Uh, Also, there's cleaning things. Um, well, I don't know. Hold on. We'll just get to categories later because that doesn't seem to be helping me. Um, Cleaning supplies, also um, clothes. Um, what else we got? We've got phone and and also phone service. Those are two different things that are treated slightly differently. Um, we've got things like uh, social and treats. Okay, that's for my own well-being. Also, like gifts for other people. Those come up. Um, Things like within the world of Game of Favorites. Um, I like to always buy food for uh, whoever does the techie thing. Um, so meal, that's important. Um, Under housing, we can add in internet. It's a housing expense. Um, Also things like car, that can be its own category. The car itself, car maintenance. How do you spell maintenance? Maintain. That doesn't look right. That doesn't look right. Maintenance. Yeah, that looks better. Uh, that only looks slightly better. That looks much better. Also, car insurance. Um, Great. Oops. And we're just going to keep on going. Actually, before we go too far, though, I'm going to, let's see here, view. I'm going to freeze panes so that we can see. So this will continue to come down with us. That'll be handy. Um, what else we got? Phone service, social treats. Um, Gas, that's a car expense. All right, so those are all like transportation and cars type stuffs. Um, I've got tuition and I've got textbooks. Um, Computers, like that's a major expense. Um, Miscellaneous tech upgrades. Double click here. If anybody's out there, let me know if you think of any other categories I should add. Um, let's see. Let's see. Should have brainstormed a little bit more beforehand so I could just copy and paste. That would have been helpful in hindsight. All right. Um, there's so many things that we buy in life. Did I say food? Yeah, I did. And cleaning supplies and um, clothes, phone service, just gifts. Um, there's more stuff out there for sure. For sure. What else do I spend money on? See, I don't spend money nowadays. which is kind of nice. Except for this, these I think are my biggest expensive, and also like phone and tech stuff, and well, we'll start with that. And the great thing is that as more things come to mind, um, we can adjust for that. Great. We're gonna call this. This is kind of its own category, I guess. Communication, communication, social, self-care. I consider all that kind of self-care. Um, great, 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 great. Insurance. Oh yes, like health insurance. Welcome, Anna. How are you doing? Uh, yeah, that's important. Adult. No, let's say how to adult. All right, all right. Keep throwing out more ideas if you think of them. I'm going to start working on these next columns. Um, so, uh, we're gonna write a column here that says quantity of years, quantity per year, and also quantity of years. Why? Because there's two different sorts of things that we're working with here. Like for example, rent is going to be um, every single month, right? So that would be like 12. At the same time, we've got there's also car insurance. Yes, I have car insurance right here. Yes. Uh, at the same time, we've got things like I don't buy a phone every year, theoretically. I buy, realistically, me knowing myself, I buy a phone like every 2 years. Um, so there might be clear names that you could brainstorm that would make this, because these look so similar, and I hate having similar looking names. But that's the idea. So we're going to uh, everything needs to have something like that. So for example, for food, there's 52 weeks in a year. I'm gonna buy food 52 times, budget it by the week. Utilities, that's another 12. Cleaning supplies, uh, how often would I buy cleaning supplies? See, I live at my parents' house right now, which is fine. Like this budget is going to account for uh, all of that and what it would look like to move out. Um, so let's say every other month. I don't think I need to buy cleaning supplies more than every other month. And I'm going to include things like toilet paper and everything else in there. Um, yeah. Oh, what about like furniture? That's a tricky one, but that's an expense that we have in life. Um, all right. Clothes. Shucks, for me, I definitely I and maybe every other month. Yeah. Phone service, that's a monthly thing. Self care, that social life, that's a monthly thing. Treating myself, that's a monthly thing. Um, Gifts, okay. So this is tricky, but in general, what do we have? We have, uh, let's list out some things. We've got Christmas, um, and I've got how many people in my family? I've got 4 siblings and 2 parents. Okay, so we're gonna call that 6. 6 times I'm gonna buy gifts for Christmas. Birthdays, that's also 6. Um, and let's see, like weddings, those come up. How often do I go to weddings? Nicole, hi, welcome. Glad to have you. Uh, we're brainstorming different things that we spend money on all the time. Weddings, I'm going to say I go to like 3 of those a year. Because honestly, that's about how much I. Oh, actually, road trips. Um, those are something that mm, I don't know. I don't know. We won't worry about that quite yet. We'll get to that later. We can add that in if we need to. All right. So So I expect to buy about, it's hard to see, but down here, if you just select these three cells, then it'll show the sum down here. So 15 times I expect to buy gifts for people, okay? So we're going to write 15 there. Oops, 15. The game of favorites, I play the game of favorites every month. Internet, that would be a monthly expense. A car, hopefully, that lasts what? 4 or 5 years, depending on how. Let's see. When was the last time I bought a car? I bought a car back in 2012. It's 2018 now. Holy cow, that's 6 years. Okay. Hallmark car. That's true. That's true. Mother's Day. I don't have a sweetheart. Although, it would be good to budget that. But I'm not going to include Valentine's Day yet because I seem to be very good at the single thing. But we'll include Mother's Day. That's definitely a thing. We'll also include Halloween. Yeah, me personally, if I'm going to do something special for Halloween, I'm going to take that out of my treat budget. You know, like I can't justify for myself. Uh, my car was built in 2004. All right, fine. I'm going to say 8 years. No, I'm going to say 7 years. Seven's a nice number. Um, Actually, that's going to be a horrible number once we divide it. But just because, like I think it's better to overestimate how long you have a car, overestimate how often you'll need to incur an expense rather than underestimate. That brings this back up to 16. Um, yes, yes, yes. All right. Car maintenance. We're going to round that to about every 3 months. Okay. Car insurance, that's actually for me, I like to do that twice a year because usually you can save if you do it that way. Gas, there should be a monthly gas budget. Tuition, that's of course twice a year. Textbooks, that's twice a year. Computer. Okay, so I just upgraded a computer. The last time I bought a computer was about 4 years ago. Um, so maybe I should get better at, taking care of computers. But the nice thing about all this is like we're going to create this spreadsheet in a way where if we need to, we can like adjust this and see how that affects our numbers. Um, so like there's going to be a bunch of formulas that calculates everything for us. And then if we want to say, hey, what if we start making a computer last 6 years? How does that change our budgets? Well, we can just change that number right there and it'll fix everything for us. Miscellaneous tech upgrades, that's like every other month. I optimistically, ideally, okay, I would like to be able to. Health insurance, is that a monthly thing? I think that's usually a monthly thing. Furniture, housing, I don't know what to do with that yet. Dating, eventually, ideally, one day that'll be a monthly thing. All right. We'll get back to housing. I don't know how I want to deal with that yet. All right. Now we're going to create this thing called the multiple. I'm watching this instead of writing your rhetoric paper. This is important stuff. We're learning how to life. All right. So this is going to be, whenever I start putting formulas into places in Excel, I always like to remind myself of that by making the cells gray. And that way, I don't accidentally overwrite things here. And what we're going to do here is we're going to press equal signs. And this is how you introduce any formula. Like anytime I want Excel to calculate something for me, we're going to go to a cell, we're going to press equals, and then we're going to write in the formula. In this case, all we need to do is say, hey, take this cell over here, C2, and add it, and then we're going to open parentheses to, wait, is that going to work? No, it's not. Because we're going to have a divide by 0. I was going to do this, and it's going to say that doesn't make any sense. That'll make sense once we get down here. Starting summer online courses today. Are they exciting courses? All right, I need to figure out a different way to do that. Let's see here. What if we sum of this, and I wonder what it'll do if we, whoops. Let's see if this works. Nope, it doesn't work. All right, this is gonna, we already have a complicated formula here. All right, so first, I love econ and statistics so much. You have no idea. I'm going to be a tutor next semester for business analytics class and talk about p-values and stuff, and it's going to be so much fun. Yes. I wouldn't mind taking statistics again. All right, so we're going to do this. If we're going to do an if statement, so this is the if error function, okay? And so what this is going to do is we're going to type in if error, open parentheses, and we're going to say this over, whoops, no, hold on, I did that backwards again. 1 over this, all right? And then we're going to come over here. All right, so what this is doing is it's looking here, it's trying to take 1 divided by d2, but then if that is an error, I know I am, if that's an error, then it says, because this is an if error function, then it chooses the other argument, okay? Which we told it is C2. The way any Excel function works is you have equals, and then you have the function, and then you have an open parentheses, and then you just tell it what you're asking for. Like, so we could open this up like this, and so the value is what it's looking to do first. And for us, we're saying, hey, I want you to really try to do D2, 1 divided by D2. If you can't do that, then you'll give me the value if error, which will be C2, all right? And since this becomes an error, then it goes to C2, okay? So now watch this. As we have our formula like this, and we can click and drag this all the way down like this. And then it gives us this 52, this is 12, this is 6, this is 6. Here, it was able to do 1 divided by 2, and so it did, and so on and so forth. Here, it was able to do 1 divided by 7, and so it did. Great. Isn't that beautiful? See? Was hoping that the first formula wouldn't be this complicated, but you know, what can you do? All right. So now there's 3 I like to think in 3s because, you know, I don't know, 3 is a nice number. Okay, so we're gonna look at my current situation amount now. We're gonna look at hold on. Well, I want to calculate what would it look like to not be losing money every month, where I am now. I want to look at what it would look like to be living comfortably at home. And I want to look at what would it look like if I was actually living in an apartment with a roommate. We're going to aim for with a roommate at this point. How much money do I need to make those things happen? So first category is not losing money. Second category, double click this so that we have enough room. And this is going to be amount. Amount if not losing money. Shoot, this is, we'll fix that in a second, it'll look better. What's going to be the amount if healthy at home, and amount if in apartment. Okay, so we've got three categories here. We've got not losing money, we've got healthy at home, and we've got in apartment. Okay, now just to make things more complicated, so this is going to be like the actual amount that we're going to be spending in a year's time for each of these amounts. So am I going to do a break even? Yeah. Yeah, this is my break even currently. Does that make sense? Like if I'm losing money every month. If I make this much money, then I'll be breaking even every month. And this will probably be the easiest one to calculate. So this is a multiplier, and this should not be gray. This should be no fill. This is the expense. Okay. And this is the expense. Whoops. Cancel. Right click, press insert. Expense. Oh gosh. I need a bigger monitor. That would be nice. Actually, no, that wouldn't make a difference. I'm zoomed in because I want to make it easier to read what I'm doing here. Okay, so for example, housing expense right now is $0. There. These are all going to be dollar amounts. So I'm just going to come up here, and up here, if you have cells selected and you come up here and you change this to currency, we'll just say currency, okay, then it'll start printing things with a dollar sign, which is nice. Great. So this one, we're going to click the G column. We're going to hit Control and hit this I column. We're going to scroll over a little bit and then hit Control and hit this K, because these are all going to become formulas again. Great. So this is going to be equals our expense times our multiplier. See that? And so obviously if we have $0 expense 12 times a year, then that's $0. Great. Food, I'm also spending nothing on that. Why don't we bring this all the way down? And actually, hold on, I did that wrong. All right, have you seen dollar signs in formulas before? This is a cool little trick where, all right, so see, if I drag this down, what Excel does is it says, oh, you want the same formula, but further down. So I don't know if you can see that. Oh, we can do this. We can double click here, okay? So like here, we've got F2 times E2. I dragged this down and it said, all right, I'm going to come down because, you know, you went down a cell. And so it changes the 2's to 3's. If I drag this to the right, then it changes the letters. The letters go one up. And that's usually really handy. But in this case, I don't want to move off of this multiplier. Okay. This will also work if I do like a copy paste thing. See, these change to 3's. So that's nice. But I want to be able to copy and paste this over here, and I want let's see, I want F2 to stay to move over to H2, but I don't want E2 to move. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a dollar sign in front of the E, and that'll lock the E. Isn't this riveting stuff? Okay. So now, whoops, if I press Control V over here, now it's H2 times E2, and that's really handy. And I can do that again, and the E2 stayed, the J2 changed. Okay, so for example, If I'm healthy at home, I still don't have any expenses for rent. Hold on, I can't see what I'm. All right, I'm going to come up here and I'm going to hit view freeze panes on freeze. I'm going to hit if my cell is selected right here. If I come up here to view freeze panes and hit freeze panes, then when I scroll down, then everything above where the cell was selected will stay visible. And if I scroll to the right, everything to the left of where that cell was will stay visible. And that'll be handy because it just helps us know what we're talking about. All right, how much will rent be if I'm in an apartment? I live in Moscow. It's really cheap in Moscow, so it's going to be about, if I have a roommate, I bet I can get it for 350. Okay, and that is not that bad. In fact, actually, I bet I can get it down to 300. I lived in my own place for 350 a month with, well, yeah, once upon a time. I lived in my own place for 550 a month, 550 a month, and I had 2 rooms. Um, that was a couple of years ago, so prices have probably gone up a little bit. But I don't think that 300 is a ridiculous amount to expect. All right. Next. So now what we can do is we can drag this all the way down and see how the numbers change, the letters don't, because we're just going down. We can drag this one all the way down, and we can drag this one all the way down. And now I just need to plug in amounts, and it'll automatically start calculating some things for us. Utilities. So living at home, I don't have to do anything. I'm actually going to change. I'm actually going to. Okay, so my dad's retiring. Thinking about retiring in the near future, and he's wondering. Well, I want to be able to chip in a little bit at home. So I guess maybe we'll call that healthy at home. Let's say 150 a month to live at my parents' house if we're actually living healthy. Cleaning supplies, I don't have to worry about that right now. Clothes, I don't buy clothes. Yeah, I'm thinking about retirement right now. Phone communication, that for me is roughly 46 a month. Wait. Oh, hold on. That's right. This is the actual phone. 46 a month. When I buy a phone every 2 years, it's usually about $500. I get unlocked phones. So that means that if I'm not starting to save up like 250 every year, then that's going to, you know, that's going to become a problem later. Social, I don't have a social life. Let's call that $10 a month because every once in a while I get stuck doing something. Let's call that $8 a month. Treats, I don't need to treat myself. Not for the bare bones. Gifts, $20. Man, see, gifts are so expensive. But sometimes you just kind of, I mean, that's like just a part of life. This is one of the places where I like to cut costs, and it's not a good place to cut costs because people are important. A game of favorites. I usually figure about $20 for a meal for the game of favorites every month. Internet, housing. Right now it's 0. Right now I'm not going to count my car because my car is just sitting in a parking spot. It's not insured. It does nothing for me. Tuition. How much do I pay on tuition? Not that much, honestly, because I have a bunch of Pell Grants and things, and University of Idaho is pretty cheap. But I think that after grants and everything else, I ended up paying like 200 each time, and textbooks was around 250. Um, don't hate me. I live a good life. It's nice. It's nice. Computer. I just bought one. Usually, when I buy a computer, my budget is around $1,200, which means every year I gotta save up 300 for the next computer. Miscellaneous tech upgrades every other month. Um, right now, the way I'm living life, I spend nothing on it. Right now, for health insurance, I have this thing called Christian Healthcare Ministries, and as long as you like go to church on Sundays, then you can apply for this, and it is only for the lowest tier. I'm telling you way too much about my life. $45. Furniture is nothing. Dating is nothing. Can't afford no dates. All right, great. Great, 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 great. This is grunt work that to do that for the next two cells. But you know, to start with, this is everything we've put together, and we've calculated. So just like the simple expenses that don't change with how much money you're making, we're looking at 3,200 a year. You can't see that terribly well, can you? I wish there was a way I could zoom in on that. Well, here, I can do this. Equals the sum of all this, about 3,200. All right, great. So that's nice. Great. And we'll come back to this in a second because I don't feel like doing it anymore. Now we're going to look at, now we're going to start looking at percentage expenses. Now percentage expenses are strange because there aren't usually that many percentage expenses, but also what percentage we're talking about, like what we're taking the percentage out of, changes. So, for example, I mean, so the government is going to take it out of the gross income, right? But depending on who you talk to, some people very much disagree with this. But like for example, me personally, I tithe um, out of my net income. Okay, so like first the government takes out their piece, and then 10% of what is left over from what the government took out is what goes to tithing, right? Um, which is fine. I think. I don't know. We can get into theological debates later. And then after that is when I start looking into putting a percentage into, say, IRAs and things like that. Okay. So we need an out of column. So for example, taxes come out of gross. Tithe comes out of sub 1. So like first oh, what happened to my internet? Are we okay? I had an internet blip. But I think we're back. We should be, oh boy, having some real internet problems here. Why don't we, hopefully this gets better. I think our internet's having problems. Okay, I think we're better though now. Yes? Yes? All right. If you had some buffering on your end, it's because of me. All right, and then investment, retirement, honestly, is sub 2. Okay, so our taxes are going to come out of the gross. Our tithe is going to come out of sub 1, like out of after we take out the taxes, then we'll take out our tithe, and then after we take out our tithe, we'll take out our retirement. And if we wanted to change those things, like you could just change this to gross, and all the formulas are going to work in a second here. This is going to be the actual percentage. All right. All right. So taxes, how much are taxes? 10%, maybe? I don't know. Similar to before, we're going to select this whole thing and we're going to come up to here and we're going to change. We're just going to hit this percentage button just to make things look pretty. Great. But it's weird because like normally, okay, so how do you write percentage in numbers? You write, well, point the percentage. So if I want to write 10%, I write 0.10. But now if I come over here and write 0.10, then it gives me, oh, I expected it to give me 0.1%. Well, that's interesting. How interesting. Oh, shoot. You know what? I messed up. Let's insert a couple rows. This is percentage if not losing money. This is percentage if healthy at home. And this is percentage if in apartment. Okay. This is always going to be basically the same. Tithe, that's going to be the same. Retirement, it's not losing money, you know. Not doing anything for that right now. But I would like to be putting in, what's the recommended amount? Let's just say like 7%. Actually, and by the time I get out into an apartment, I want that to go up to 10. Now, this is not 30% of my income, right? This is not 30% of my income. So that's good. That's good. Because this is not coming out of my gross. This is not coming out of my gross. This is coming out of what's left over after this. So for example, 10% is coming out of my gross. That means that I have 90% left. 10% of what's left comes out of that. So that's 9% out of the 10% of 90% is 9%. So effectively, we're taking 9% out of the gross. And that leaves me with what? 81%. So 8.1%. Does this make sense? 8.1% ultimately is what goes to retirement. Because 81% was left, and then 10% of that 81% is what is what I end up with. That probably didn't make a lick of sense. That's fine. Well, I'll make it a little bit clearer over here. What we're going to do is, this is becoming a very unwieldy thingamabob. We're going to call this the gross equivalent. And what we want to do is we want to calculate. So these are the percentages that we're taking out of the sub. Okay. And we want all of these to, we want this to automatically calculate what that is out of the gross. So 10% of my first subtotal equals how much of my gross. That's what we want to know. And of course, we can calculate that manually and put in the numbers, but I want it to be a formula so that if I come over here and change numbers over here, it will change numbers for me over in these formulas. And of course, we need 3. Why? Because we have if not losing money, healthy at home, and in apartment. This could probably be formatted in a different way that would make it a little less unwieldy. Not losing money. Let's just keep the formatting consistent. If healthy at home, and gross equivalent if in apartment. Great. All right. This is starting to get horribly large and unwieldy. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to come over onto another sheet. This is our main sheet. This is percentage calculations. Okay, and uh, what we're going to do is um, we're going to figure out some important things here. First of all right, let's zoom in a little closer here. So what this is going to do is this is going to create for us a roadmap, so that over here, when we're doing this formula, it's going to be able to figure out how much percent is taken out of the gross, and by extension, out of each of the subs, and do all the maths for us. I'm not explaining this very well, but that is to say, well, that's not what I wanted at all. Um, like, what if we had more than one thing that was coming out of sub 1 or sub 2 or gross? Um, then I want it to be able to figure out, all right, so you've got this 10% coming out of gross, and you've got another 5% coming out of gross, so you've got a total of 15% is coming out of gross. Does that make sense? We've got 3 levels. We could make this into all sorts of different levels, but we've got 3 levels. And total percent. Okay, so this is going to be this is going to be a well, these are formulas. All right, so let's make this gray. So this is going to be a equals sum if. Okay, sum if, what it does is it goes to a list of cells that you tell Excel to look into, and it says, hey, does it meet these certain criteria? If it does, then it starts adding up those quantities. So for example, first we tell it the range where it's looking for criteria. That range is over here. We want it to, whenever it finds the keyword in this column, to do something. Okay, what is that criteria? Well, that criteria is if it finds what's over here, in this case, gross. If it finds gross, then we want it to sum from another range, specifically, oh, it changes, doesn't it? Yeah, it sure does. Percentage if not losing money. Okay. These all need to be percents. So what this is going to do is it's going to go over to the main sheet, and it's going to look at column Q, and then it's going to check each cell in column Q for what's in A2, well, this word gross. Whenever it finds gross, it's going to go over to column N, back on this other sheet again, and add up what's there, okay? But this is only for if not losing money, right? You get the drill. And this is this is if healthy at home, and this is, excuse me, if in apartment. Great. Now remember, similar to before, we need to figure out what, like if we drag this over, all these letters are going to change. And some of those letters we want to change, some of these don't. So for example, if we're dragging this to the right, what letters do we want to change? Well, we don't want the, this is where it's looking for the word gross. And that's always going to be in the same column. So we want dollar signs in front of these letters, okay? Percentage calculations also, the criteria it's looking for is right here. When we move this over, we still want it to stay here. So in front of that A needs to have a dollar sign. But these ends don't get a dollar sign. Why? Because over here, when we drag it over, we want it to stop looking in N for amounts to add up and start looking in O. Okay, so when we drag this over this way and drag this down, whoops, if we did all of our formulas right, then it reproduced what we've got over here, which isn't that exciting. But what if we had another percentage? I don't know. We could even do this. Capital investment is going to be in sub 2. And I want to be able to put in, I don't know, 3% when I'm living in an apartment. Healthy at home also. Right now, nothing. Capital investment, that means like buying things for my YouTube channel, buying things, you know, like equipment and things to make life better. Now if we come over here, look, this 7 changed to a 10, this 13 changed to, this 10 changed to a 13. And because these are all formulas, then it's really easy to come back here and simply change these amounts and see how that affects what budget we need to raise for ourselves. All right. Now these are going to be messy, messy formulas. All right. So what we're going to do is this won't be that bad. This won't be that bad. Total percent if not losing money at 10% of gross comes out here. Okay. So hold on. I'm sorry. I'm pondering things here. What we want is this is going to take this is going to be real ugly. This is going to be another really ugly formula. All right, well, so when it's in the gross, it's really easy because we're just going to be calculating formulas over. But I want to come down to sub 1 to make sure that my formula looks right. And sub 2 is going to be increasingly complicated. So we might have to revise these formulas a couple times. Honestly, this is the most complicated part of the whole budget. So if we can bust through this, then we're well on our way into figuring out the actual total that we need to raise for ourselves, what sort of job we want, what sort of whatever we want. Okay, so equals, sub 1 is going to equal, you know what we can do? What if we do this? This will make life easier. Remaining of gross. And we're just going to, since these are static, yes, this is so much easier. All right, so remaining of gross for each of these levels. And we can add in, why don't we just add in some lines to make things easier? Okay, so now we've got a dividing line here. Okay, so since this is gross, all we need to do is hit equals 1 minus gross, all right? And now if this number changes, this number will change too. We're assuming that the government's taking 10% of our paycheck. That means that we have 90% left. All right, so after sub 1, how much of our gross is left? Well, we're going to have what we had before minus 10% of what we had before. Does that make sense? And now we've got 81% left. And same idea here. We're going to take, after sub 2, we're going to take what we had before. Nope, what we had before. What we had before was this 81%. And then we're going to subtract out what we're taking out for sub 2. And that's going to be sub 2 times what's remaining here. I don't know why it added the decimals here and not here. That's awfully strange. But it did, so that's fine. Okay. And now we can just copy this column over here and see all the formulas updated. See now, since this changed up to 10%, then it changes this here. So after sub 2, what we have left is 73%. And over here, so here, with these percentages, that means that we have, no matter how much money we make, we only get to keep 70% of it. 30% of it is going to go to all of these percentage expenses. And then we'll have 70% left over to do all of this. Does that make sense? And honestly, we don't need to calculate all of this right now. So I'm just gonna ignore this for now, because we have enough to calculate like the actual bottom line, what we need to make. Those I might calculate those things later. Why? Because that'll help us calculate like how much money is actually going to taxes, how much is going to tithe, how much is going to retirement, how much is going to capital investment. But for now, this is the exciting part. Are you still with me? I feel like I might have scared people away. That's fine. For now, what we're going to do is, we're going to calculate amounts for the actual subtotals, the actual amounts of everything that's going on. Okay. All right. So for example, how do we want to do this? All right. So this is where we put the percentages and the simples together. So let's start by figuring out, for example, subtotal of subtotal of simples. Like that. And this is going to be if not losing money. This is if healthy at home. And this is if in apartment. Okay. So we'll need this information. We'll need percent of gross remaining. Okay. And these are going to be real easy to make. Real simple formulas. Let's start with that. Let's also fix this. Apartment. Who was spelling that? All right. So the subtotal of simples, that just equals the sum, right, of this whole column over here. Real simple. Okay. And now because of the way we did this, we have to like skip over a column each time. So we can't just simply drag, unfortunately. Because now this is going to H, and we don't want it to go to H, we want it to go to I. And then we want it to go not just to J, we want it to go to K. So now So now as we fill all of these guys out, these subtotals will change, of course. Um, so right now, this is the only accurate number, and only semi-accurate, depending on how many more simple expenses we calculate. All right, percent of gross remaining. This is really easy. All we have to do is, why don't we do this in the, this is kind of ghetto, but that's fine. We're going to just hit equals, and then we're going to come over and find the cell that we want. Percent of gross remaining, if not losing money, is 81%. Right? That makes sense. Percent of gross remaining, if we're healthy at home, is 73%. And this, if an apartment, percent of gross remaining is this cell over here, 70%. All right. So now we have enough information to calculate our yearly income. Okay. Why? Because we've got how much we've got a dollar amount of simples. Okay. And this equals 81% of the total. And this is our total. Okay. So this is just simple algebra. This link right here is just the link that you follow to get here. So it's just the simple algebra that we've got here. Simples equals this percentage right here, right, times yearly. Okay, so in order to calculate yearly, all we need to do is divide both sides by percent, right? So simples divided by percent equals yearly. Simple enough, right? Now we've isolated yearly. So remember what that looks like, because it's going to go away. All right, so this equals simples divided by yearly. And this is how much we need to make per year. And we can drag these over. So I'm sure that I missed some expenses, but at least as of right now, I'm expecting that I need to make just $4,000 a year in order to cover everything. And that's assuming these percentages, and that's assuming these simples. Right? Does that make sense? And of course, these are very much not filled out. Just for, this only includes rent right now. Rent and the percentages. But look at that. Like, just including rent, if I'm making enough just for rent, and I have these other percentages going on, then I actually need to make this much money a year in order to just cover rent and, you know, like the tithing and the taxes and all that. So the next step after that, I like to, this is the same number, but just, you know, a different perspective. Monthly income equals this divided by 12. All right. All right. And then we could figure out the percentage amounts for each of these, but I don't, I think that more urgently, so I need to be making $330 a month to not be losing money where I am right now if I want to tithe and pay minimal taxes. But now look, if we change this to 0, that makes life easier. then all of a sudden I only need to make 296. And that is the magic of Excel, is that we can figure out what our input numbers and what our output numbers. These are our outputs. These are the numbers that we care about. And this is what we know, these things over here. So there. And that is how we calculate everything. So of course I would want to go through and I would want to fill out this whole column. I might have more things that I need to calculate over here. Like if I, as I brainstorm more expenses that I expect to have, I would add them in over here. And then I'd be able to remember just only write in the white. And excuse me. Oh gosh, I'm sorry. And that'll tell me everything, right? As I add more expenses down here, that'll make these numbers more and more accurate. Why don't we go through and let's not worry about healthy at home. Let's figure out like what is the big number that I'm looking for. I spend $100 a week on food, easily. Look how much this number has already changed. All of a sudden, I need to make $1,000 a month in order to live in an apartment. Utilities, that's pretty cheap around here. That's about $50 a week, so that's $600 a year. Cleaning supplies, I mean, shucks, $15 a month? Or what did I have this as? I had this every other month. Yeah, $15 every other month to cover cleaning supplies, right? Clothes, honestly, I don't spend that much on clothes. 6 times a year. I don't know. I do spend a little bit, so we'll call that 20 bucks every other month. Phone, that's the same as before. It might be a little bit more expensive than that. I'm not sure. I have a OnePlus right now. Phone service, that's still going to be about 46. Social, I can up that. If I'm living on my own, I hope that I'm living a little bit better of a life. So, yeah, like 20 bucks a month to go to coffee with friends and things like that. Like that means about once a week I can go spend $5. I live a pretty sheltered life, so that should do just fine for me. I do like to take care of myself. We'll also say we'll put this at like 30, and that gives me like a little bit of an alcohol budget and things like that. We can raise this up to about 30 gifts, and also start treating my techie a little bit better. Internet, honestly, with my streaming needs, I expect to have to pay a little bit more for internet than is typical. So I'm gonna, I don't know, 50? How much? I don't know. Like, so this would be something I would want to research. Let's just highlight that so that I know to research it. Car. Next time I buy a car, we're gonna say it's 5,000. And see, the beauty of this is, if I'm living within my means, living this way, then I won't take out a loan for this car. I'll be able to pay it outright, which makes it much cheaper. Car maintenance, that's like, well, if we're talking just every 3 months, then this has got to be, then I want to be able to take care of whatever's going on. We're going to say 200. Car insurance, I used to be paying $600 a month, but I was on my parents' plan, so that was a little weird. I expect on my own plan it'll be a little bit more expensive. But maybe if I don't have very aggressive insurance, I should be able to get away with around $700 every 6 months. Gas every month is about $30. Tuition, is hopefully not going to change that much. It's going to be 200. Textbooks is going to be about the same. Computer, that's going to be about the same. Miscellaneous tech upgrades, well, I'll be able to start treating myself a little bit better. So why don't we say 25? You know, like $50 or $25 every 2 months. I shouldn't have to do much more. This health insurance. So here's a question. I would definitely want to research this one again because my health insurance, I'm not sure how much it, like it mostly is fulfilling legal requirements, but how much does it actually do? Things like, dental, right? Dental and eye care. Geez, see, this starts to add up real fast. I'd like to have, but I think that this health insurance plan can start to cover those things reasonably well. Yeah, but I think that you also have to start going higher tiers. So we're gonna call it like $80 a month or 100. I don't know. That would be something to research. I need to call them. Furniture. Honestly, I only need to buy furniture. Like I really only expect to have to buy a mattress, and that should last me what, 5 years? Um, and let's say I spend $100 on a mattress. I might not even do that when I move out because I've slept on the floor on carpeted floors for a long time and got used to that and really didn't mind. In fact, I think it's better on your back. Um, so that's the thing. Dating, self care. This can kind of borrow from this treats place and contribute to this treats place, depending, or the social. But we'll say 15. You know, I mean, obviously a date is going to be more than $15, but I would take from there and from social and self care treats. All right. So what does that look like? That's over 2,000 a month, which is significant. Um, but also that's not that's not impossible. Of course, I didn't consider dental and eye care, so it's going to go up a little bit. So I expect, based on this, and I think the last time I did all these calculations, it was closer to like 3,000 or so. Um, but like, it makes things feel a little bit more reasonable. Like, yes, it is possible. I'm working really hard on Patreon this summer, um, and it is possible to get here. We're looking for like, I mean, we're looking for about that much, uh, plus whatever else comes up here, and that's my world. That's how you do Excel. Um, I wonder if anybody came. Well, thanks so much for Anna, Nicole. Thanks for coming by, and uh, and that's how you do this. Yeah, yeah. I hope this was helpful to somebody. If not, it was fun to work on Excel and just practice because I these are like brain teasers. Um, all right. I'm thinking that everybody ran away by now. That's fine. It was a fun time, and this is good practice for me. I'm I'm enjoying this streaming world more and more. If you watch this in the future, let me know. Say hello, and I'd be glad to answer your comments. That's all I got. God bless and ciao.